You've been hearing about the various forms, Brian, of stimulus. Very different forms of stimulus. What would you say would be good, appropriate under these circumstances?
Well, I think the first thing is to add fiscal stimulus in a time of stress is the absolutely right answer. I think anything gets out to the most people. And so keeping people who are become underemployed or unemployed due to this, whole on their wages, or somehow supplementing that through unemployment and other types of programs, we think is a key thing. Because if you keep the broad group of American people with cash flow and money to buy goods and do things, the economy will be strong, and those individuals will have other people we should take care of, no question. In all our companies, anybody who's out for this virus is getting paid for as long as it takes, or anybody has high risk, we're all taking care of it. So I'd focus first on that level, and then the second major thing is take care of the health care problem, because the health care problem is what is generating the confidence. So between testing and building up the hospitals so they can receive and do great work as the American medical community and hospital community can do with the patients is critical. So instead, other than the broad base of people in the hospitals, I think businesses and other things, we'll get through this. But if we take care of those things, this thing will correct pretty quickly.
If we get rid of the problem quickly, everything solves itself. We don't need stimulus, so that'll be good. But we are talking about various forms of stimulus. What would you think, Michael?
I think to add on to what Brian said, the support of small business is critical.
Right.
You look at the employment and you look at the importance across our economy, and unfortunately right now small business is suffering from both sides. One is there's been disruption in their supply chains in terms of receiving their goods that they need. And the second, the other side of it is that there's uncertainty from the demand side in terms of what the future holds. So I think working with the banks in this room and well beyond the SBA to be able to put programs in place around forbearance, to be able to potentially up the limits in terms of lending in these programs. And again, I think they're things that have been used before effectively, and I think we can do it again.
Great. Thank you very much. Ken, go ahead.
Well, I think all of us in this room are fortunate we're in a position to take care of our workforce. And I know that large corporate America is there 110% for their employees. The weak spot are the smaller businesses that don't have the financial flexibility. And in particular, our workers who are part of the gig economy. How do we think about where necessary direct fiscal support to the individuals in our economy who are least secure in their employment? You work for IBM, life's going to be fine. You work for Goldman Sachs, life's going to be fine. And if you are a part-time or gig worker, this is a moment of real trial. And this is where fiscal accommodation can be quite powerful.
I agree with that. So, anybody? Ellie?
I would say that stimulus is appropriate. I personally like what you have mentioned in terms of some form of adjustment of payroll tax, a holiday, or even a complete restructuring. It is a regressive tax, and it's something that could help in the short run and the long term, and help provide more support for the 70+% of the U.S. that need some help in terms of more savings and stability of livelihood. And so here's a chance maybe to do something that helps the short run and the long term.
I think so. I think the payroll tax would be great. Democrats are not in favor of it. I'm trying to figure out why, because it would be something that would be very good for the citizens, for the people, and even longer term for the country. So that's a tax that people have long been talking about either cutting or getting rid of entirely. So, Steve, what do you have?
Just say it's great to always have the bankers in, because you have tremendous visibility into the economy and what's going on, and we are interested in hearing that feedback, particularly at small and medium-sized businesses in particular industries. We've cataloged for the president all of his executive authorities, which are quite significant. So there'll be various proposals he'll be rolling out quickly on that front, and we're also working with Congress on a bipartisan basis to be able to immediately help small and medium-sized businesses as well.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, what do you say to Americans who are concerned that you're not taking this seriously enough, and that some of your statements don't match what your health experts are saying?
That's CNN, fake news. Go ahead. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That is the president with bank CEOs. The president saying he'll be making a statement around 8 o'clock tonight. We'll see what details he will bring. In the meantime, Wilfred Frost, who's there, remarkable moment when he asks Bank of America's Brian Moynihan what the best stimulus is, and Moynihan says, take care of the health care problem.
Focus on the medical issues, I think, were the words, Carl. As you said, exactly. Focus on the patients and the hospitals. But listen, overall, coming out of that meeting, extraordinary to see all of those characters in the same room together, of course. There were some very encouraging tones, like from Bank of America's Brian Moynihan saying the economy is still strong, banks are well capitalized. Mike Corbat of Citi saying this is not a financial crisis, also that we want to provide liquidity. Even got some specific numbers on liquidity from Gordon Smith from JP Morgan, who said they'd extended $26 billion in loans to consumers and smaller businesses in just the last 40 days. So all of those points are things that we can come away with, say there's no reason to panic. The banking system is working fine. But it wasn't a transformational, fresh policy announcement. And on that note, there was also a line from the president, I don't know if you guys heard, where he said, if we get rid of coronavirus quickly, then we won't need a stimulus. That's not the type of line that leads, of course, stocks to rebound. And, of course, headlines from this meeting were leaking out when the market was still open. And with that in mind, it's not a surprise that we didn't get a big rally from this meeting alone. But as you said, Carl, another statement due from the president at 8 p.m. Maybe that is the big policy announcement that markets want to hear from. Guys?
It was also interesting, Wilfred, to hear all the banks sort of pat themselves on the back for being well capitalized and lending to small and medium-sized businesses. I mean, what a change having bankers right now in Washington from the last time we were in these kind of market days during the financial crisis.
It was two-way. I'd say they were also complimenting the president, and the president was calling them the greatest bankers, the best bankers in the world. So again, I just feel that goes back to a little bit of the tone of more of the same. The same being encouraging, by the way. There's no need to panic, but more of the same as opposed to anything really new and transformational. And of course, markets at least, maybe not the economy, we haven't got all the data on the economy, but markets at least, with the momentum behind them to the downside, need to hear something a little more transformational to stem that flow, which we haven't got yet. I would mention as well, I'm standing just outside the West Wing, of course, that we have seen David Solomon of Goldman Sachs and Kelly King of BB&T rush out fairly quickly. They wouldn't stop at all. We'll see if we can catch any of the others. They haven't left yet.
All right, Wilfred, keep us posted. Let's get to Eamon Javers, who is also inside that meeting. Eamon, the president was asked if there are going to be more travel restrictions. He did say he'll be talking about new measures tonight at 8 p.m. What do we expect?
Yeah. Well, that's right, Sarah. I asked the president in that room if he's going to issue a national disaster declaration. The president said that's one of the things we'll be talking about and pointed to his 8 p.m. statement tonight. But he said we have a lot of options on the table. And you heard the Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, also saying we've cataloged a lot of the president's executive actions, of which there are a lot, and that will be what the president is making the decision from here. So this seemed to me in the room very much a president still in listening mode on stimulus ideas. You saw him literally polling the CEOs of what ideas they preferred, what they would recommend that he do. So it's not clear at all that the president has in his mind as of this hour right now exactly what he's going to tell the nation at 8 p.m. tonight. But it is clear he is going to be making a statement. He said at the end it'll be within 50 feet of this room. And, of course, the Oval Office is within 50 feet of that room. So we do expect that this will be an Oval Office statement tonight, most likely at 8 p.m. Very rare for this president to take over primetime airways to make a statement. So there will be an expectation that he's got some news to make there. And we'll just have to wait and see what it is, whether it's economic or medical news or both. The president hinted at the end as we were all being shooed out of the office, as you could see there, he said it'll be both economic and medical news that he'll be making tonight.
Eamon, thank you. Eamon Javers outside the White House as well. Market, as you know, by now, Dow down 1464 for the day, officially closing in bear market territory for the first time since 2008. S&P not quite there, down 140 points.